Hi, this is Brett Ingram, award-winning digital marketer and entrepreneur. And today I want to share with you 10 quotes that help entrepreneurs become better leaders. Leadership is such an important part of who we are as entrepreneurs because whether we're solopreneurs and we work on our own or whether we have a big team, the fact is, in order to be successful in anything that we're doing, and in order to have any sort of impact on the world or on history or whatever else, we have to be able to inspire, we have to be able to motivate other people, and we have to be able to engage other people in our vision in order for it to be anything significant. You know, it's very difficult for one individual to be able to do anything or everything all on their own, and certainly not anything of real consequence. And so when it comes to leadership, it's super important that we recognize that and we hone our skills and develop that, even if it isn't something that right now seems apparently relevant for what we're doing. So when you think of a great leader, what adjectives come to mind? What do you think about when you picture a great leader? Because oftentimes when you say the word leadership, it in and of itself evokes an emotion. It evokes imagery in your mind in terms of maybe great leaders you've heard speak, or great leaders that you know of their actions, or maybe historical figures that for one reason or another were considered great at what they did. Maybe sports figures. It doesn't matter what field of life, and it doesn't matter whether they're famous or whether they're people in our own personal lives that maybe they had an impact on us. But I know for me, one of the things that really stands out when I think about leadership is I think about people that had said and done things that maybe even at the time I didn't recognize as great leadership, but they were things that stayed with me. And they were things that I still remember years and years later. And by the way, that holds true for great leaders and bad ones also. You know, I had an opportunity to work with and for people that were excellent leaders, and I've had an opportunity to work with and for people that were terrible leaders. And the difference is really stark, but both equally memorable for the same reason. And so it's kind of interesting in that I don't remember a lot about other things about them, but I remember elements of their leadership. That's how powerful it is. That's how transcendent it can be when we are a great leader and when we have an opportunity to impact other people in that way. And so it's a responsibility that's important also that we take very seriously because, you know, the ability to help somebody get to where they want to go and the ability to help somebody be part of something that's bigger than themselves is a really big responsibility, but it's also a tremendous opportunity. So regardless of who you envision, you know, the idea of leadership is indelible in terms of who we are. So I think, you know, there are obviously a lot of different traits when we consider leaders, right? There are a lot of different things that we can think of or that we could talk about in terms of traits that great leaders have, things that they exhibit, and ways that they interact or deal with other people or are seen by other people. And so I've sort of broken quotes down into different categories because I think that it's really important to be able to encapsulate, instead of just talking about leadership qualities and hey, you know, these are the central leadership qualities. I think quotes do an excellent job of encapsulating what it means to be a particular thing. And so by using quotes that other people have said about leadership, breaking it down into various segments of the character traits of leaders, I think is really valuable because it allows us to sort of distill down what it is in ourselves that we might want to cultivate in order to be more effective and successful leaders ourselves. And so the first section or the first sort of trait is vision, and which makes perfect sense, right? I mean, I think every leader is seen as someone who has a vision. You know, whether or not it's something other people have or not, they had the vision and the courage to at least go for it. So maybe somebody else saw it too, but for one reason or another, they weren't able to do it. And so having a vision, having the idea, a bigger picture of things than most people are sort of looking at is something that I think is a really important trait of leaders. And as entrepreneurs, that dovetails perfectly into what we do, because obviously, if we're going to do anything that is significant, if we're going to do anything that is going to have an impact on society or the world or the future or the past or whatever, the only way we're going to do that is with a vision. So one of the quotes that I picked out for that is, "Do not follow where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail." It's Ralph Waldo Emerson, and it's a really great quote because it encapsulates perfectly how leaders view things. They don't work within the constraints of what already exists. They think about what's possible. They think about what would be great for it to have or to be able to create. So that is the essential role of a leader in that case, is to be able to sort of see what's possible, and not only see what's possible, but then create the path and say, follow me, this is where we're all going, and it's better for all of us. And so I think it's a really great quote, because I think if we think about that and hold that in our minds when we're doing our own entrepreneurial ventures, it allows us to sort of have free license, right? To open up our minds and to look at what we think is possible in the future and build a path to get there. Another quote that I think is really excellent in terms of vision, that really sort of culls it down well, is, "Leadership is the capacity to translate a vision into reality." It doesn't get any more plain than that. That's Warren Bennis. And it doesn't get any more plain than that. I mean, the fact is, right, a lot of us have thoughts, a lot of us have ideas, but to be able to take a vision, to be able to take something that we're thinking about as a possibility, and then be able to sort of break that down into steps so it isn't just a possibility anymore, it's not just a fantasy. We sort of figure out a roadmap for how to get from what's in our minds and what we think is possible to what we can actually create, what we can actually manifest. And that is a super powerful value and trait of a leader. So I think those two things really sort of bring home the idea of vision as a leadership quality. And I think that's an essential quality of a leader, because that is ultimately the thing that gets people to sort of rally behind us, right? I mean, they might believe in us, but it's the vision that we want them to buy into. It's the bigger purpose, because when we all tie into that, it makes it a lot easier to charge forward and do what we need to do to make it a reality. The second sort of trait or area that we want to look at in terms of leadership is problem solving. Naturally, it makes total sense, right? That from a pragmatic standpoint, I mean, we go from vision, which is super important, but it's sort of esoteric and it's sort of like above the shoulders type thing, to problem solving, which again isn't any less intellectual, but it's something more practical that everybody can sort of get their arms around and understand that problem solving is something that leaders have to be able to do. No matter what we're trying to accomplish, there are going to be problems, there are going to be roadblocks, there are going to be obstacles along the way. And as leaders, we have to be the ones that have an idea for how to solve it. Whether we can empower other people to do it and, make them more competent at what they're doing so they're able to solve the problems for us, or whether we're the ones with the solution. Regardless, the idea of being able to solve problems is just part and parcel to it. It's impossible to achieve a vision if we can't solve problems, because anytime we're trying to beat a path to where we're going that's brand new, there are always going to be problems along the way. So I picked out a couple of quotes for problem solving too, which I think really are great examples of this. The first one is, "Leaders think and talk about solutions. Followers think and talk about problems." And that's Brian Tracy. And that's an excellent quote too, because it shows you what level of thought that we need to be at as entrepreneurs, right? If everybody recognizes that the problems are there, right? So we all can see, this is an issue and there's got to be a way, unless we can get rid of this issue, we're stuck. But if we stay there and we dwell on that and we focus on the problem and how this is going to cause an issue and now it's going to prevent us from getting to where we want to be, that is not going to be productive. It's not going to be inspirational, and it certainly isn't going to get us any closer to where we want to go. If instead we shift that and we start to focus on what the solution is every time we're in a problem, not only is that great for ourselves in terms of our own ability to solve problems and get to where we're going faster, but it encourages everyone around us to do the same thing and to develop a solution-oriented mindset. You know, great leaders say to their team, you know, if there's an issue, if there's a problem, come to me, but come to me with 2 or 3 solutions that you've already thought of, right? Don't come to me and dump problems on my desk. Come to me with ideas, possibilities, you know, ways that we could potentially solve this problem. So we all work together. It's not that the leader has all the answers. It's that the leader inspires everybody around them to be problem solvers and create that sort of culture and mentality. And that's the way that we want to view it. A second quote that I picked out for this is, great leaders are almost always great simplifiers who can cut through argument, debate, and doubt to offer a solution everybody can understand. Awesome. I mean, that really cuts to the chase, doesn't it? It's General Colin Powell. And, you know, that is really the idea. You know, there's a lot of ambiguity, especially when we're doing things that are new and we're moving in uncharted territory. And there are going to be a lot of conflicting ideas. There's going to be debate. And at some point, for anything to get done, for anything to be accomplished, we at some point need to shift from analysis, you know, observation, speculation, conjecture, all of these other things, to action and to solutions. And so the leader can sort of take all that stuff together, synthesize it, and come up with things that sort of gets everybody focused in the right direction. Again, it doesn't mean that the leader has the answer. It means that they have the path to get to the answer. Maybe somebody else on the team has a better idea or actually comes up with the actual solution. But the leader keeps people on track and focused toward figuring out what that solution is and getting there faster so they can problem solve and get to where we need to go. A third trait that I think is really valuable, and again, it's less glamorous than some of the others, but it's also one that's often overlooked in terms of leadership, and that is service or hard work. You know, everybody accepts the fact that a leader needs to work, except the autocratic style leader that thinks they're going to tell everybody what to do. That sort of antiquated style of leadership very rarely, if ever, works. It only works to the extent now that you have power over other people. The minute that you don't, they're not going to listen anymore if they're just being told what to do and ordered around. A service mentality from leaders means that we're rolling up our sleeves, we're getting in there and we're doing it with them. We're leading by example. We aren't telling everybody else what to do. We're saying, hey, this is how we do it, and we're all doing it together. You know, I think Michael Jordan actually mentioned something about, and I don't have his quote, but I think he actually had a quote that said something to the effect of, you know, leaders earn their leadership every single day, right? And basically what he was saying is, if I don't come to practice as the hardest worker every day, how can I expect my teammates to do it? Just because I'm a better player or have more skill, that doesn't matter. People are not going to say, well, just because you're better than me, I'll work harder. They're going to follow your example if you're the leader, if you're the captain. And so it's super important to actually have that sort of mentality, that service mentality, that leadership mentality, where we're willing to do the hard work. We wouldn't ask anybody else to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves. And so one of the quotes I picked out for that is, the leaders who offer blood, toil, tears, and sweat always get more out of their followers than those who offer safety and a good time. When it comes to the pinch, human beings are heroic. It's George Orwell. And again, I think it's a great quote that shows exactly what we're talking about. It's the ones who get in there and are willing to do the work, then everybody wants to jump in and help do the work. It's the ones that stand on the, sit in their easy chair, pointing around at what needs to be done, that no one respects or has any desire to help. And so it's super valuable to be that kind of a servant leader where we're able to actually contribute and move everything forward toward the goal. The other quote I have for that is the first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. The last is to say thank you. In between, the leader is a servant. Max Dupree. And that's exactly what we're talking about, right? So, yes, we're defining where we need to go. And at the end, we're making sure everyone else feels thanked and valued and important and recognizes that we recognize their value. But throughout the whole process, we're in there with them doing what needs to be done. We're helping get that work done. So again, we're leading by example, and that is a fantastic way to develop ourselves as leaders, is to have that expectation that we are going to get in there and do the work with them, because that is ultimately the way it all gets done. In my own business, I have a sort of a method that I use anytime that I need to hire somebody to do something. Unless it's something I literally don't have the skill for, I do the job first myself. So I understand what is required. I understand what excellence looks like. I understand what skills are needed. And I can speak intelligently about it to somebody when I've hired them. So I can judge them and evaluate them fairly and give them advice and tips and help and set them up for success. But also, I show that every single thing that I need done in my business is something I'm willing to do. I just can't do it all, because none of us can. In order to build anything beyond ourselves, we need other people to help us out. The next quality for leadership is integrity. And integrity, it sort of underpins all the stuff we talked about, right? It's sort of like the needle that runs through it all, that sews it all together. Because integrity is super important in that if people believe that you are genuine, they are much more likely to follow you. When they see that there are multiple sides to what you do, and you say different things to different people, and you do whatever you need to do to get the result you want, they don't have as much respect for leaders like that. And so again, we're back to a situation where if we have power over them, they might do what we say, but the minute we leave the room, they're not interested anymore and they don't care. One of the quotes I have for that is, a leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. John C. Maxwell. Brilliant. The idea of that is, yes, again, we've got the vision, and we are also going to do that, and we're going to help other people see that. But we're also going to do it ourselves. We're going to walk the walk, as they say, because it's super important that we lead by example and we let everybody else know that we do everything with integrity. So that way we inspire everyone else to do everything with integrity, because they will follow our example. And if we don't have integrity, how can we expect our team to have it? And if they don't have it, that's not good for our business. It's not good for our customers. It's not good for our vision. None of it will ultimately work. The other quote is, always do right. It will gratify some people and astonish the rest. Mark Twain, right? Because again, for the people that recognize integrity and care about it, it will automatically be something that they resonate with and respect. But for people who wouldn't normally act with integrity, it actually will shock them. But it will shock them in a good way that will make them want to be better and want to have the same level of integrity that they've been shown. And so that is a really, really valuable part of being a great leader. And then the last trait that we want to touch on, and these by no means are all the traits of leadership, but these are some of the core and most important ones. The last one is to be inspirational, right? We all, when we think of leaders, oftentimes we conjure up images of people that inspire us. And one of the quotes that I have for that is, the final test of a leader is that he leaves behind him in other men the conviction and will to carry on. That's the very definition of inspiration. People may work alongside of you when you're there, and that's fantastic. But when they're working beyond you, when they're still doing it, and they're fighting the fight, and they're pushing toward that vision, even when you're not there, that's a sign of a great leader, because that shows that somebody was so inspiring that everybody wanted to continue on with that mission, even when they weren't there, and even when things moved on beyond them. And so being inspirational is the thing that people cling to when they want to sort of get on board and follow that vision and that mission. It's that inspiration. It's that ability to see that, this is an uplifting, exciting environment to be in, and we're going to change the world, and you're going to be part of that. So being able to inspire people is super important. And that is Walter Lippmann. The other quote is, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. I couldn't define it better myself. That's John Quincy Adams. And the fact is, when your actions inspire others, right, they're dreaming more, they're learning more, and they're doing more and becoming more. That is ultimately the essence of a leader, is someone who's able to help people become the best versions or greater versions of themselves, maybe even than they even thought was possible. And when you can do that as a leader, you now have transcended sort of ordinary management and moved into true leadership. And that is a value that people will follow you to the ends of the earth with. So the takeaway here is that leadership is a vital trait for entrepreneurs, because whether we work alone or with a team, we are ultimately dependent upon others to achieve our goals and realize our visions. When we cultivate leadership traits and habits, we add the foundation and the building blocks required for success, and we raise the limits and potential of what can be accomplished. Entrepreneurs truly do change the world, and the ones with great leadership have the greatest impact on others, and the ones we remember long after they're gone.